Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Dr. Michael Sinel. After completing his residency at Cornell University Medical Center and Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York, Dr. Sinel served as Director of Outpatient Physical Medicine at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, an assistant clinical professor at the UCL School of Medicine. He was also privileged to work closely with chiropractors and owned several medical chiropractic integrative clinics. In addition, Dr. Sinel lectured on alternative approaches to pain and the mind-body connection, and at well-known institutions, including UCLA and the Esalen Institute. As a nationally recognized expert in spinal disorders and pain management, Dr. Sinel also authored several scientific articles and two well-known books on back pain, including Back Pain Remedies for Dummies. He is the owner of Physician Therapeutics, which is www.medicalfoods.com. He is passionate about reducing the side effects of pharmaceuticals by bringing safe, scientifically proven encapsulated medical foods as natural alternatives for pain, sleep, obesity, neuropathy, fatigue, and cognitive decline. Today, we talked about managing pain, sleep, obesity, solutions for arthritis, better, like to take away the pain, joint problems, fibromyalgia, so many things. And Dr. Mike went in depth about each of these things on the podcast with some natural ways you can manage chronic pain and natural approaches to things that are usually treated with pharmaceuticals. This was very informative. We talked about encapsulated medical foods versus supplements and the opioid crisis and so much more. So if you have chronic back pain, you're having trouble sleeping, you have an appetite and you just keep wanting to eat more than you know that you should, this was such a good episode. And it was very informative about things that most of us are really not aware of, which is alternatives. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Without further ado, we're going to dive in with the one and only Dr. Mike.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm excited to welcome Dr. Michael Sinel to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome. Yes. Hello. Glad to be here.
How's everything going? Where are you at in this in the world?
Now I'm in the deep rains of Los Angeles, which we need, but it's unusual. So yeah, I live in Los Angeles.
Where are you from?
Yes, New York. I was going to say, no one would guess from my accent.
Oh, never.
Many years out there, but the accent stays. I grew up in Brooklyn.
I love that. My daughter lived there for a while, but now they kind of live in Flushing, New York.
Sure. Yeah. I know it well.
I love the accent. The people are so straightforward there. I love it. And just fast paced, and it's a cool place. And my son lives in LA, so there you go.
Oh wow, there you go. Where are you?
I am in Ohio.
Okay, right in the middle.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. So how's that been? Is the weather great there? Because it's cold here today.
Well, I mean, Los Angeles, the weather's pretty much always great, but we've had these big rainstorms coming for the last week or so, which are hitting Northern California terribly. But for here, it's great. We've had long droughts in Southern California, so Los Angeles could use a month of solid good rain, and we're hopefully filling some of the local rivers, and the spring bloom will be beautiful.
So I think I find when people are in the sunshine and the warmer weather, and you're a little more health conscious out there, I think. And
Yes.
so so how did you get into all of this? You're a doctor, you've written, books to help people with back pain. You have like so much of an amazing background, but what got you started into wanting to be a doctor to help others?
That's a good question. I think it was probably whispered into the womb as the first Jewish male in a big family in New York that they said, become a doctor. I don't know, because I always knew it since I was, you know, when I could remember. I mean, watching Marcus Welby, MD, the family doctor, it was like, wow, look at that. And I don't know, I just never knew
That was one
anything
of my
differently.
favorite shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn. It wasn't like a common thing. There were no doctors in my family or none that I even knew, but I just always wanted to be. I think at a deep soul level, I'm a healer and I want to help people. And, you know, going down on that path was very rewarding, continues to be really exciting and was grounding for me. And love science, love people really. And I love psychology and just comes natural to connect with people and want to help them.
So how did you get on this path though, like that you're on, like with managing people's chronic pain?
Sure, sure. So, I went to school. I'll just give a 2-second background if okay. I went to medical school, New York, and then did my residency in New York. And I chose a field, physical medicine and rehab and pain management, because it was really a very people oriented field, looking at the person as a whole, very holistic. I always, tried to think of myself. I was a psychology major, and I was always very into the mind body connection and sort of knew my own relationship to like how stress would show up in my body through dandruff or acne as a kid, or my gastrointestinal system being off when I was anxious. And as a psych major, learning a little neurobiology and understanding the role of stress, I picked a specialty which was physical medicine, rehab, and pain management, that was looking at the patient as a whole and looking at their lifestyle, looking at their job, their family. And it's a very widespread field, but I focused on pain and musculoskeletal pain and became board certified in both physical medicine, rehab, and pain management. And then really went on to focus on primarily spinal disorders for a while, like neck and back problems, anything from I threw out my back, or I have chronic back pain, to big herniated discs or spinal fractures or spinal cord injuries. So the entire spectrum of spinal disorders. And my mentor, part time when I was training at Cornell in New York, I spent a bunch of time at NYU with John Sarno, who was like a very big leader in the world connecting stress and back pain. And I used to moonlight with him, so to speak, when I was uptown at Cornell and see him lecturing to people about things psychological, not physical. And people were getting better with all sorts of problems. And so, although I was being trained tradition, Western medicine, you know, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, here I was oriented and learning daily from John Sarno, who is taking people and changing mindsets and having them get to, root causes of anger and rage and getting their back pain better after failing a surgery. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
wow, this is remarkable. So, you
And
know,
people are so disconnected from that and that realization. I recently was working with one of my friends. We went to the root cause protocol school and became consultants so we could do the tissue mineral analysis with the blood interpretation. And so you always start with a consultation, and it all leads back to their stress. It always started with the stress first and then
mhm.
the issue. And I think people think when they stuff down their emotions or they don't feel or they numb out, that it's nobody knows about it, that it's going to go away, or it's under the carpet, or it's hidden under the rug. And it comes out in all sorts of ways. So it's really better to pull those things out, deal with them, right? Versus having all this. I mean, it just comes out in, I think, in
Yes.
different ways in the body.
Yeah, pain and trauma certainly store themselves in the body and express. And they alter physiology. I mean, everyone knows stress will cause illness. You know, if you put yourself under high stress, you'll get something, whether it's high blood pressure or an ulcer or headaches or chronic pain. So, you know, stress is probably the number one thing, societal wise, humanity wise, as the cause of disease. And we've come to learn most diseases are diseases of lifestyle management. So it starts with like stress, and then exercise. Like if you're sedentary, you're not going to do well, a sedentary life. And then eating, nutrition, you know, and good sleep. I mean, the basic things for health, the basic tools of having a good mindset, and you know, and good and community and relationships and love, and having some exercise and a good diet and being in sunlight in nature, and sleeping well, that would shift the curve of our population's health way, way, way more than anything else. So as a doctor, you know, I brought yoga therapy into UCLA med school as a course. I brought mindfulness meditation into the medical school. I was an assistant clinical professor at UCLA for 30 years, even though I feel 30. And as I know you do. And look, so yeah, I always looked at how I manage my own life, and try to do things that are, you know, have less side effects and risk. I mean, look, there's a place for pharmaceuticals, there's a place for
Sure.
surgery, and the Western medical system could be great. You know, if I had major trauma or got hit by a car tomorrow, yes, there's lots in Western
Right.
medicine that's critical. But for most of our chronic diseases and the things that people suffer from, you have to look at, you know, natural, safer ways to approach things first.
A
And
hundred
that's what really
percent.
got me to the medical foods as well, which we're going to talk about, because it was addressing disease nutritionally with targeted nutrition, dealing with neurotransmitters in the brains. And I'll spend some time talking about it. But again, it was what I was doing in my own lifestyle. Like, hey, if I could take something that's safe for me versus a pharmaceutical that's has a very high profile, why wouldn't I do that? And if I would do it, why wouldn't I offer that to my patients? So I'm here now on a mission to help spread the word about safer alternatives to pharmaceuticals and ways to manage many, many common diseases: chronic pain, inflammation, sleep, obesity, fatigue, cognitive decline, neuropathy, on and on, through natural approaches that are proven scientifically to be safe and effective. And that's what I'm passionate to spread the word on my, you know, encapsulated medical foods. I bought this company and I'm excited to share it with your listeners.
Well, I have this Operation Muscle, SOS Strong, because it's a Sisterhood of Sweat, that I'm going to have a challenge in February. And I was writing it out and I'm working on everything, because it's a different challenge than we just finished. And I wrote that when you get older, you either supplement or you medicate. And like you know, having like a safe, effective approach without 1,000 side effects, like, you know, what would you rather have? And, you know, really
Exactly.
look at it that if you could just gain a little knowledge and do a little homework and a little research, you know, listening to podcasts with somebody like you, Dr. Mike, where you're going to talk about a safe, effective approach to manage chronic pain. What do you think would be a safe, effective, like, approach for managing people's pain versus
Yeah.
drugging up and
Sure, sure. And I'm so glad you said as you get older, because older people, and again, we're both over 60, so they're the most susceptible to these side effects of the pharmaceuticals. And, you know, I mean, that's when it becomes increasingly dangerous to take pharmaceutical meds because of the side effects. Because as you're older, they could potentially kill you. Or, if you get a bleeding ulcer when you're
Mm,
in your 20s
mhm.
versus in your
Yeah.
60s, it's very different. So it's very critical for the seniors. I was just visiting my mom. She lives in a senior community in Florida, and everyone takes all these medications, and even the most common ones, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which are ibuprofen. Everyone knows Advil, Motrin, and naproxen, like Aleve. And these are the ones that people take for their chronic arthritis and
Yep.
chronic bad knees and chronic headaches, chronic back, chronic neck. And these are really, really have very high risk profiles in a senior population because they could cause, besides gastrointestinal upset and gastritis and nausea, they could cause bleeding ulcers. They have cardiac toxicity. They have kidney
It's
toxicity.
bad for
They
the
could cause,
liver.
I mean, yeah, Tylenol has liver toxicity. So these are the most commonly taken things by people in our generation before us, that are at the highest risk of medication side effects. And now I'm offering safe alternatives with amino acid formulations that will regulate the body, and we could talk about theramine as the number one medicine that has been around 15 years and 40 million doses safely taken by people for pain and inflammation. And these used to be prescription only, but they're all natural and they're safe, and they balance the body at a cellular level nutritionally by producing neurotransmitters that are found out to be decreased and depleted in these chronic diseases like chronic pain and inflammation or chronic sleep deficiency. And what we do with these natural medical foods, which are encapsulated products, and is we produce the neurotransmitters, which are the signaling molecules of the nervous system, and get them
Hmm.
into
Yeah.
balance
Yep.
and treat diseases naturally. Now, it's not to say you don't want to exercise and have a
The
positive mind.
neurotransmitters from the amino acids, is that
Yeah,
you're
so the
balancing the
amino
aminos?
acids, we use amino acid precursors and botanicals in a patented amino acid technology that our company has, and that produces neurotransmitters. And it
Hmm.
turns out
Yep.
that in all these disease states, there's a deficiency at a cellular level of neurotransmitters because of the increased demands of the disease, like increased metabolic demand in chronic pain and inflammation or chronic sleep deficiency or chronic fatigue. It's like a car going uphill. It uses
Hmm.
more gas. So my Tesla uses a lot more electricity when it goes up a hill because there's
Oh
an
yeah.
increased demand. So when the body's under a stress of chronic pain or inflammation or chronic sleep, it has a greater demand. So it depletes the neurotransmitters quicker. We replenish the neurotransmitters and balance them by providing these amino acid precursors and botanicals and a technology that is patented. And then we get the neurotransmitters at the proper level, at the cellular level, so the body could promote natural healing. I mean, the body is the most natural miracle doctor or healer that there
Oh,
is for
100%.
itself.
Yeah.
So we want
Now,
to optimize it. And nutrition, optimal nutrition through these medical foods. It can't just be done through a regular diet to get those levels of depleted neurotransmitters that we're providing.
so with that said, how do you tell then once you start somebody doing the neurotransmitters through the amino acid therapy, uh, that they're balanced? Do you take tests, or how do you know that
Right.
it's working?
So it turns out, and again, these have published clinical studies and are FDA regulated category, which are these encapsulated medical foods. The studies were shown against ibuprofen, against naproxen, like published in medical journals, human trials, safe. By taking it and seeing how you feel, and then slowly, and again, this should be done under physician supervision. If you're going to cut medications, right, and you're being managed by a disease, like our label as a requirement, requires physician supervision. So we tell people, look, don't just stop all your pain medicines and sleep medicines and start taking these. Add these on because they're nutritional. And I encourage them to have their doctors reach out to me anytime. I'm Dr. Mike at medicalfoods.com. And let me tell their doctors, it's quite simple. I would stop people on Theramine or Tretpidone for osteoarthritis. And after a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, I'd start to slowly decrease medicines like ibuprofen or even opioids I was getting people down on. And, one of our big studies show you could reduce the dose of naproxen, which is also Aleve, naproxen, by 70% when you combine it with Theramine in one of our studies and get the same effect. But when you reduce the dose by 70% of your naproxen, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, you essentially eliminate like more than 95% of the side effects. So now it's way, way, way safer because you're balancing the body nutritionally and using the neurotransmitters in an optimal way.
So how do you view the opioid crisis?
I mean, it's very sad because, it's killing over 100,000 people a year in our country. That's unheard of. It's more than the Vietnam War. And, much of it is chronic pain because it's people who
They
who
get
were
hooked on
given
it.
They were given it sometimes after a surgery. Oh, here's your Oxycontin or your Vicodin, and all of a sudden, the doctors are refilling it, and the patient all of a sudden got addicted physiologically. Maybe it calmed their stress as well. The next thing you know, they're not realizing it, and they have a real addiction problem, and they stay on it. And then there's a myriad of side effects. And one of my close colleagues is one of the top pain practitioners in the country, and he wrote an article in a very big pain journal about encapsulated medical foods should be a first-line treatment because he has many people on opioids and on steroidal anti-inflammatories because he gets the most difficult, complex patients, and then adds medical foods, Theramine and Tretpidone and Centra for their sleep, and balances them nutritionally, and then to reduce dosages. And yes, you said it as a doctor. I don't understand how anyone with chronic pain or inflammation, chronic sleep disorders, chronic fatigue wouldn't be trying a safe nutritional approach that's proven to be safe and effective and, is now very, very affordable.
So why would you say that, explain more what an encapsulated food is and why is this the new frontier of medicine?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because, so to explain it, everyone knows what pharmaceuticals are, right? And a lot of people have big concerns about big pharma, which I think are warranted because there's a lot of things that are pushed and lead to problems like an opioid crisis because of overutilization and because a lot having to do with economics and business, right? And pharma companies promoting things to a degree that got out of hand, to doctors trying to help patients who then innocently are promoting something that becomes addictive. So we all know pharmaceuticals, they're either prescription or over the counter, okay? But they all have lots of side effects. I'm not saying don't take them if you need them. I defer you to your doctors, but I encourage you to be aware of the side effect profile and think of them as something that if you could take less of any pharmaceutical, because there's another alternative that could help you manage whatever's being treated, talk to your doctor about that, whether it's acupuncture for pain or an encapsulated medical food. But to get on track, sorry for shooting off.
No, I like that. That's probably what people want to hear about.
Yeah, so everyone knows pharmaceuticals, either over the counter, like ibuprofen, you can buy your Motrin over the counter, or prescription, right? And everyone knows supplements, which we've seen in our lifetime become like a household word, because supplements are natural. They're not regulated by the FDA. They're manufacturing, in other words. You could make supplements in your kitchen or garage and put them up for sale. And the regulations are changing, but right now it's very hard for the public to discern what are
you
good.
Put in what you said you put in.
Right. And many studies have been done. that many supplement claims about the ingredients are inaccurate because they're not CGMP manufacturing, which means certified good manufacturing practices, which our medical foods are, encapsulated medical foods are. So supplements, we don't really know the ingredients, and it's very hard to discern one brand from the other from a marketing perspective, which is why they can't make disease claims, and they're usually based on theoretical science. Like it's a good theory, but it's not usually. More and more we're seeing some supplements that are tested in humans, but usually they don't do human studies because they're expensive. You don't see very many supplements that have human published studies, especially double blind studies. Our medical foods, theramine, centropm for sleep, have human double blind studies for safety and efficacy. So supplements on one side, pharmaceuticals on the other. In the middle is medical foods, which are natural, like supplements. The definition by the FDA is all the ingredients have to be GRAS, which is GRAS. That means generally recognized as safe. Just like supplements, you're usually seeing minerals, vitamins, certain botanicals, amino acids. Ours are made of botanicals and amino acids, right? So the ingredients are GRAS. The manufacturing is certified GMP, good manufacturing practices. They require physician supervision on the label, and we encourage people to make sure they get supervision for their disease by their doctor and talk to them, let their doctors help supervise the use of the medical foods. But we are selling them directly. You'll be able to put them on your website and sell them directly and let people have their doctors understand that they are taking them and before they monitor their meds.
So
And
is
the
there
last
any
one-
side effects to those?
No, the medical foods, you may see a little dry mouth, you may see a little nausea, but we have over 40 million doses safely prescribed and taken over 10 years plus with no real adverse side effects of significance, other than some nausea, occasional dry mouth. You know, most people
From the
don't get.
amino acids, from somebody getting
Yeah,
used to
and
them.
again,
Yeah,
taking
I've done neurotransmitters before and
anything
amino
new,
acid therapy.
yeah, some people will get some nausea taking anything new for a
Oh
few
yeah,
days.
I
Just
had
start
to
a little
slow down a little bit at first
right.
because it made me nauseous.
But other than that, no side effects. And these are fine. And you could stay on them forever. And they're nutritionally based and they don't have any drug interactions. So you could take them with whatever you're taking and you could combine them. So the last criteria by the FDA is these are specially formulated products to address a nutrient deficiency in a disease state that cannot be met through a regular diet. So in these diseases, it turns out, as I told you, there's nutrient deficiencies of the neurotransmitters that can't be met by normal diets. We give our encapsulated medical foods, and that meets the FDA criteria. Those are the 4 criteria. So, you know, again, theramine studied against ibuprofen and naproxen, treating people successfully with pain. Now, when I first came across these, they were prescription only. And I prescribed these in many of my patients at several clinics. My patients wanted, you know, more natural, holistic options. And these were helping me get them off prescription medicines.
What about somebody with anxiety? You know, they are taking all these depression or anxiety medicines. Do you have something for that?
So our 2 sleep ones, one is centropm, tends to work for sleep with some depression, and gabardone, our other one, tends to work with sleep with anxiety. Okay, we don't say these are specifically to treat the anxiety or the depression, but many people with anxiety and depression also have irregular sleep. Their autonomic nervous system and anxiety and depression and every disease, we tend to have dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic and parasympathetic are out of balance, and the flight fright reaction and relaxation are not balanced. Ours help regulate the autonomic nervous system, thereby reduce stress responses, anxiety, depression, but help normalize sleep. And we've shown this. They've also been studied in PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So again, that's working through autonomic regulation. You know,
now you're speaking my language, that, you know, thinking about the parasympathetic, and thinking about how people are in this fight or flight mode a lot, where they're just go, 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 and their adrenaline is up. And, they need to take time eating slow, like having your food, having some nice music, chilling a little bit, doing a little yoga, doing a little meditation, so that we're not always in the other, mode where you're just like this, right?
Of course. Yeah, those are really important. And again, we're giving a boost to help regulate the neurotransmitters nutritionally when you have any of these symptoms. Because, yes, our whole society, I think, suffers from autonomic dysregulation, you know, because we get stressed. The primitive response was,
Do
when we
more.
were out when we were out hunters, it
Uh-huh.
made sense for our sympathetic to really kick in. But now it kicks in when someone's not making a right on a red in front of us, and there's some traffic, and our whole nervous system goes into overdrive. And that's
Yes.
how our society is with technology and emails coming in every second. So yes, it's key to regulate your autonomics, and that's one of the things we're addressing nutritionally with this whole approach. So I think it's extremely important.
Yeah. So
But
like, I mean,
always
what you do
lifestyle.
does matter. Like what you
Yeah,
put in your body matters. What you like, how you manage stress, what type of exercise, what type of nutrition, like it all matters. And it matters at the end of the day, especially when you hit 60 plus. And that's the game changing time when you can see who is actually subscribing to a healthy lifestyle and who is not. Now, can people start this stuff at any time and see
yes.
results no matter
So
what their age?
I'm glad you're saying that, because, I always tried to encourage my parents who weren't exercises and not necessarily conscientious of their nutrition. This is like 10 or 15 years, and they never really listened. My dad passed a couple years ago and never really took the advice. But the studies are showing you could start doing this in your 70s or your 80s and make significant changes. Your cognitive decline could slow and reverse. Your functional ability to participate in life and walk
Mm-hmm.
stairs,
Right.
play golf or tennis. I see people in their 90s super active. I have a fellow I played singles tennis with who's 88, who runs incredibly in singles tennis, and he looks like a 50-year-old. So
Amazing. I love
yeah,
that.
and he's in the gym every day lifting weights and eating right. And yeah, I mean, look, like you, I could tell looking at you and what you're into as a lifestyle. We don't really look at aging as a natural thing that has to happen. It's we're learning more and more it's a disease that is reversible mostly by lifestyle and a number of other things. So this
Yeah.
is really.
So what do you do for exercise?
Oh, I mean, I'm a yoga practitioner, but I mountain bike, I trail run, I hike, I swim. I'm into many sports. I lift weights, so I'm a bit of a fanatic, mostly outdoors.
I like outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah, and I try and keep myself very, very active. And then I think meditation's super important. Yoga meditation, I'm a big fan of a lot of my Joe Dispenza's work, which is mind body
Mm-hmm.
connection,
Yeah.
meditative techniques. His work is great. Joe's a friend of mine. I just did Tony Robbins' work, which is again putting you in the right mindset and having the
Yeah.
right motivation.
100%.
So I think those things are critical for people because mindset is starts there.
What's your morning routine look like?
Well, these days it's doing podcasts and spreading the message on medical foods. No, but I try and get into the mountains of Los Angeles. I try and get on my mountain bike and do and I climb trees a lot because I'm a rock climber as well. But that usually takes another person. So when I go hiking and mountain biking, I have a bunch of trees that I tend to do my yoga in now. Tree yoga. It's wonderful. I
And
like
what do
doing
you
that.
subscribe to nutritionally? Like, what is your your lifestyle of what is your eating like? Are you
Yeah.
plant-based or are
No,
you?
I mean, I'm trying to orient a bit more plant-based. I'm not, but I think I certainly have friends who are and think it's great. And I try to certainly eat a lot of vegetables. I'm very into good salads, but I'd say I have a bit more of, keto, Mediterranean keto more at times. But um, I think the key things are avoiding processed foods and sugar, which, I've had many battles wrestling my sweet tooth, but I'd say eliminating processed sugar for sure makes sense. And I try to keep my carbohydrates a bit in check and not eat that much red meat, although I do eat some. But again, if I eat it, it's organic, grass fed. And I think eliminating processed food is critical.
So what would you say, like, can people take these encapsulated medical foods? Can they take them with their regular prescription drugs?
Yes, so you could take the medical foods with anything. If they look on, so medicalfoods.com is our website. And I think they would see all the research articles and the history, and you'll give them a nice discount code if they want to buy. But there's endless amounts of information. So they could take them tomorrow, no matter what medicines they're taking. There will be no problems with the medical foods because, they are amino acids, they're natural, and they won't interact, but they may enhance the drugs. But if they enhance them, it's not like they're going to have side effects. They'll just hopefully be able to decrease them under their doctor's guidance. Like if they're taking prescription sleep medicines, we have a study with Centra PM against trazodone. Trazodone's one of the most widely prescribed sleep medicines on earth. And we showed quicker sleep latency and restful sleep, no hangovers. Many people with trazodone get daytime fatigue or get confused, especially seniors. So they could add on Centra PM right away and be taking it and then talk to their doctor about slowly reducing the dose of their sleep medicine, or use Gabadone if they have more anxious sleep and running thoughts. And again, just start on it right away. Take it, give it. I tend to tell people give this about a month for the neurotransmitters to get to the right level. And, then you could work with your doctor about weaning your prescription medicines if you're able to. But no problem starting it, no drug interactions, no side effects to speak of, as I explained. And you could combine the sleep one, Centra PM or Gabadone for sleep. You could combine it with Theramine, which is for chronic pain and inflammation, or Tepidone for osteoarthritis. So I have many people who have like chronic arthritis and or fibromyalgia, and who for many years have sleep difficulties, chronic inflammation and pain.
Right.
They could be taking Theramine and Centra PM. We have people on these for 5-10 years doing great nutritionally.
Helps
Many
their joints and things to stop aching so they could sleep.
Yeah, many people have reductions of their inflammation. Our studies show a reduction of inflammatory markers. So, and we have an appetite suppressant that reduces cravings and improves moods, because obesity obviously is a great plague in our society and culture. And many of the prescription sleep meds really cause a lot of intolerable side effects. People get palpitations or could get high blood pressure and anxiety. And our natural sleep, our natural appetite suppressants, Aptrim and Aptrim D, are just decreasing craving. Again, working with neurotransmitters in the brain, getting your mood more stabilized, balancing you so that you naturally decrease your cravings and appetite without any ill side effects.
So can we take these neurotransmitters forever, pretty much?
For what?
Can we take them forever, pretty much? I remember
yes.
taking
Most
on the
definitely.
therapy, and the doctor was
Yeah.
like, "Why would you
No
ever
problem.
stop?"
No problem. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nutritional, just like you could eat
Uh-huh.
an apple every day of your life.
Yeah.
These are nutritional at the end of the day, and they're just producing things our body naturally produces, but they're accelerating and adding to the production of that because they're deficient in these diseases.
Give me one of
So,
your best success stories of somebody that did the encapsulated foods.
okay, I could give you a couple. So one of my chief medical officer, Larry May, who's a Harvard trained MD and wrote a big textbook and is a leader in the nutritional medicine space. He was the, I think, executive vice president of Herbalife, and he very involved in overseeing their entire nutritional supplement initiative. He's been with us and he's been writing people on medical foods for 15 years, a well-known concierge doc in Los Angeles. His partner, who is also a doc, suffered from obesity, right? An internal medicine.
Yeah.
He lost 85 pounds with our Aptrim, and he still takes it. This is like, I think, 9 years now. Now maintains great weight without cravings or mood disorders at all, and stays on Aptrim and looks healthy and fit. And we have a number of stories with massive weight loss with Aptrim as a appetite suppressant. But I think the chronic pain one, to me, is, as a pain doctor, the most exciting, seeing people who've
Right.
gotten, I had a woman who I got down literally to rarely ever using opioids and completely off of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which used to give her terrible gastric reflux and gastritis, and she couldn't tolerate them, so she was taking more opioids to manage her pain. She had had chronic back pain and a failed surgery, and I got her on the Theramine, got her up to twice a day. She actually took them 3 times a day, 3 times a day, and was able to get completely off of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Only rarely takes like a Tylenol with codeine when she gets severe flare-up, but manages on Theramine, and Centra PM had normalized her sleep, and she's doing great on a pure nutritional regimen, exercising, back to work. So yeah,
That's
these are
amazing. I mean, I
incredible.
watched, like everybody else, probably so many people out there on Netflix, Dope Sick with, Michael Keaton, and watched the opioid crisis and the people that were, in chronic pain and how they became addicted. And I just, at some point in your life, almost everybody they're gonna have some kind of pain, some kind of an
Sure.
injury. And I just find that all of this is so fascinating. And it's a solution that I think people should look at, because otherwise you have all these side effects, right?
Yes, for sure. And people don't realize it until they have a real problem. People who are just popping the Advil every day of their life, and lots of them because they have a chronic knee problem or chronic backs or arthritis. They should be trying these and seeing if they could have their doctor get them down off their prescription medicine. So I think it's really important to look at things like Theramine, which is studied against the biggest pharmaceuticals in the entire chronic pain and inflammation place, ibuprofen and naproxen, and see if they could, take Theramine, things like Tretpidone, as an adjunctive care where they lower their dose greatly or potentially get off completely with no risk of any real side effects of significance or drug interaction. So your listeners will get 20% off. I'm here to help. Medicalfoods.com. Their doctors want to reach me, Dr. Mike at medicalfoods.com. And we are really trying to spread this movement. These used to be $400 a bottle, reimbursed by insurance. And your readers are going to pay less than $50 for a month's supply. And, I think that's really important to get them out there. And,
Well, I mean, I think this has been very informative and amazing for anyone out there that's been looking for a solution to their pain, to their joint problems, to their arthritis, to their obesity, to give something natural, that's been proven without a ton of side effects, a look and see what you think about it. Now, how can they reach out to you on social media again?
yeah, so Dr. Michael Sinel, _MD is my Instagram. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. My assistant, I believe, or Jimmy sent you all our links,
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna put those in the show notes.
our website's very deep. with our science. We're bringing this to the chiropractic world, to the physical therapy world, to all integrative practitioners whose patients want to look for alternatives to pharmaceuticals, which are really important. And as I always say, make sure this is never an exchange for exercise and good mindset, nature, and good sleep, but pays to use targeted nutrition.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I think people are going to really get some benefits out of what we talked about. And so thank you again. And thanks everyone for listening. Let us know what resonated with you. And as always, keep on keeping on, everyone.